today in the series is guidance for interview technique per se, right? This would happen on the after you finish your psychological test on day 1, or after you finish your GTOs on day 2 and 3. Then you will be called for interview, right? So without any further this thing, I'll start with the presentation, right? So today we are talking about SSB guidance for interview. Okay, I'll start with my this slide, which you would be quite familiar with. Okay, right. So interviewing officer, he is looking at all these group of qualities through the medium of vacha, that is by way of speaking, right? What you speak. And please remember, what you speak is what you think and what you feel. So what you speak is the outcome, right? The final product. But before that, lot of thinking is happening and lot of emotions are also getting involved in that. So please remember that sequence also: thought, feeling, and action. So speaking is the final action part of it, but it is supported by your thinking as well as by your emotions, feeling. Okay. And this particular interview, right, while it happens at conscious level, but if it goes correctly, when I say correctly, if you are truthful and if what you are answering is what you feel, right, what you think, then in that case, lot of inputs will be emanating from subconscious level. Okay, so that is how this interviewing technique works. This is how this test has been evolved. So remember, lot of your inputs, if you are behaving your natural self, will be emanating from your subconscious level. Okay. Today for interview, right, I'll begin with principle, because once you understand the principles, lot many things fall into place. Right, I have been stressing right my day 1 that you need to understand SSB procedure correctly. You need to have correct perception about it. So if you basically go wrong in the perception itself, in the understanding of the test itself, then obviously how you perform will not be your best. Okay. So like other interviews, right, this interview per se is based on psychological principles, right? And I'll flag some of the principles with you and explain it for your better understanding. So first, very important principle is what a person has done in past is what he is likely to do in future. Okay, I'll repeat. What a person has done in past is what he is likely to do in future. You may call it principle of repeatability. Things get repeated. All right. So if somebody has been a very honest person in past, that is what he is likely to be in future. Yet if he is socially well adjusted so far, that is what he is likely to be when he joins defense forces. So that is a premise based on which entire this interview technique has been evolved. So please remember it. Second very important principle is this is called principle of recency. Okay, more recent an event, more accurate would be interpretations. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give an example. For a candidate who is going for, say, NDA, right, for NDA entry. So what is the most important events in his life, right, which he would have faced or gone through? So I take it is 10th class, 12th class, right? Or any competitive examination he may have faced, like NEET or your JEE, etc. So they are the most recent events for him. So any clues, any inferences coming out of his experiences there would be more accurate vis-a-vis what he would have done, say, in his when he was in 3rd standard or 4th standard. Okay. So the more recent event, any clues coming from them will be taken to be more accurate vis-a-vis something which may have happened in 8 to 10 years back. So that is the principle of recency. And the third principle, ladies and gentlemen, you must pay particular attention to this 80-20 principle. I'm using this word so that it registers. Okay. What does it mean? the interview process, right, the way it has been designed, uh, it is that it is the candidate who does the maximum talking. The way it is structured, it is to be ensured that it is the candidate who does maximum talking and the interviewing officer does talking not more than 15 to 20% of the total time. So 80% of the talking, 80% and more, I would say, would be done by the student or by the candidate. And the interviewing officer will do talking only, say, 15 to 20%. So if an interview is for a duration of 40 minutes, gentlemen, you can well imagine the during the entire interview process, the interviewing officer would be talking only for 8 9 minutes. The remaining 30 31 minutes, it is the candidate who is going to talk, because it is the personality interview for the candidate, right? So this you must understand, and how it gets implemented, right, I shall be covering as we move forward. So remember these three principles, very important. What a person has done in past is likely to do in the future. More recent an event, more better clues are likely to come, which will determine his personality. And it is the candidate who has to do maximum talking, not the interviewing officer. Okay, right. Now with this, I'll come to some of the theoretical aspects which will make this SSB process very clear to you as far as interview goes, right? Now I talked about past, right? If in the interview process somebody has to peep into the past and have then, based on the conversation he has about your past or recent past or what you are doing today, right, then he will look into certain aspects which would have contributed immensely towards development of your personality. Okay, it is a personality test. His interest is to judge your behavior traits, right? To do that, he has to look into your past or recent past or what you are doing today, right? So in that sense, in anybody's life, right, I'll just take this example. You are a student, you are going for SSB, right? If you are going for NDA, you would be about 18 19 years of age, and if you are going after graduation, maybe you are about 21 22 years of age, right? And when you go for this interview, by that time you already developed certain way of looking at things, right? You are already wearing a lens through which you see the whole world, right? Call it your belief system, call it your attitude, whether it is positive, negative, whatever, good, bad, ugly, it is there with you, right, when you go for this particular interview. Now, as you are today, what are the things that have made influences or that have contributed towards your becoming what you are today? Okay, I hope you remember this. In my first deliberation, I talked about this, that your belief system or your paradigm, right, is something which comes out of, is amalgamation of all your past experiences, the information you get, your belief systems, all that put together, what contributes toward developing a particular type of paradigm. Now, what are the things that contribute to your past experiences, information, and developing belief systems? Some major contributors are: one is your parents. Okay, that goes without saying. The kind of parenting one gets decides to a very large extent what kind of a person one becomes. Okay, so parental influence, parenting is something very, very important for a student of this age, what I talked about. Okay, right. Second is, of course, teachers. Apart from your time in school and colleges, you are spending most of your time at home. You are spending most of your time apart from your stay at home in school or colleges, right? So, what kind of influence your teachers have on you, and with what lens you look at teachers, right? Both ways. It is your personality, the way of looking at teachers, and then teachers, how they look at you. That interaction will shape your personality to a very large extent. So they are one of the major contributors towards building your personality. Okay, third is very important, again, siblings, your brothers, sisters at home, yeah, your interaction with them, how you get along, etc., also decides who you are. Okay, if you are a single person, if you are the only son or only daughter, that has its own peculiar personality traits. Okay, right. And of course, the friends. I'm sure you would remember and you will agree to it. This famous psychological saying, right? You tell me who your friends are, and I will tell you who you are. Okay, right? The kind of friend circle you have, right, shows a lot about your own being. Okay, another very famous saying you would recall: birds of same feather flock together. Okay, so the kind of company you keep most of the time, okay, that would also show a lot about your personality. So these are the contributory influences, right? If IO or interviewing officer has to look into you and decide on your personality traits, right? These characters become important. How? Probably as we go further, right? Now, second, I mean, these all put together will throw a light about your upbringing. Okay, in general we say what kind of an upbringing is there. If you do something, he says, oh, upbringing is so good, sanskar we call it, right? If somebody does something wrong, somebody may just say, यार क्या है, कैसे संस्कार हैं इस बच्चे के, इसके माता पिता ने क्या सिखाया है इसको, या इसके टीचर्स ने यही सिखाया. I mean, very common comments you keep hearing. So it has lot of meaning.